Lighting, it's rainy and I only have a lamp to work with. So I've laid down my line work. There's a little more erasing to be done, but I'll do that later. Now I've scanned this in case it goes wrong. Is this the one I want to use? No, this is not the one I want to use. They're both 5s, but this one's older and the point's gotten kind of smushed in a little bit from pressing too hard. So the line isn't as thick. So I scanned this in because I'm not super thrilled with the line work. I know that when a bearded man tucks their chin to their chest, the stash poofs out a little bit. Making sure that I'm recording. Okay. But it kind of makes him look petulant. So I might change this in post. But I scanned it in so I can do that. A safety scan, I call it. So when you're doing stained glass, you want your shadows to be hard lines. These are shadow lines. This one is, that one is, the one under the eye is a shadow line. The one from the brow to the eyelid, that's a shadow line. So I'm probably going to break the eyelid line, the eyelid shadow up a little bit. So I don't know if you can see this because of the shadows here, but put a little line there. And also, because this is a shadow and not the beard, I don't know what you can see, I'm sorry. Now we've connected the mustache to the rest of the, well, we've connected mustache to shadow. The stash kind of goes like down. I'm not using reference photos, I really should. And then it kind of goes up along the cheekbone. So this is why I scanned it in, so that if I get this wrong, I can alter the lines later. And then it goes up, and then connects to the thing there that goes along the hairline-ish. This is a how-to. So you see how I got this little stutter here? That's fine, because with stained glass you're doing thicker lines, so that's good. Okay, so now we have this hood here, which is just a lump, which is fine for a painting, but not for stained glass. So stained glass has a lot of lines and angles, and it's broken up into lots of little shapes. So this, we can see, is like going to be a fold. So, now don't worry, this is not what I think it actually looks like. We're just breaking it into smaller shapes for the sake of stained glass. Yes, Ms., what's the problem? There's an arm here somewhere. I'm going to assume the arm is somewhere in here. And you want it a little wrinkly because it's like a cloak or something. And there's probably, the backside is probably somewhere in here of the arm. Yeah, it's actually probably not where the arm is. The arm is probably actually here, but this is stained glass. That's not a problem. Looking at it now, the arm probably goes here, and he doesn't have very wide arms, so the other arm probably goes here. Like I said, stained glass is breaking it up into smaller shapes, so if you get a shape wrong, you can just go again. And then we'll add a little like fabric crease. And then, so we don't want him to look pudgy. That's not a man boob. Sorry, dude. Sorry. We'll add some more lines here to add sort of like a flow of the fabric, because that's what we're trying to do. And speaking of flow of fabric, there would be a crease right around here. This is one time where you can't leave ends open, so if you see little bits that aren't quite connected, connect them. And then there would probably be a crease here-ish. Now the beard, I'm not so sure how to do stained glass. Because typically, as you see, I leave little open bits. So I'm going to close those bits. Oh, also, there's sort of a little thing there. See, now if I was doing a painting, I would just do like swirls, but this is stained glass. You don't have swirls in stained glass. You have blocks of color, which is why people that are good at line art are good at stained glass, which reminds me, we've got more open bits, so let's connect those. And so there's that. And we've got this little open bit. You know, I think I'm just going to do that. It would be tricky in glass, but this is just meant to mimic stained glass. And we've also got that forehead line, that emphasis there. I think what we'll do, we'll connect like this. And I'll have to make a mental note, this will be the same color as that. So this will be a darker color. This will be a slightly, so it'll be a gradient. So same color, slightly darker. This is why I love digital, because I can do that. Because, well, you could do it in painting too. And then this whole bit would be slightly different shades of flesh tone that are slightly darker. And then that would be dark, because if you're tracing it, this is so dark it blends in with the beard. We should probably do the eyelid, make that its own separate thing, but I kind of don't want to. I'll hold off on that. The nose. How are we going to do the stained glass nose? I suppose we can just do that, and then that. It kind of makes him look like a clown, but if we add the bridge of the nose, I'm not sure I like that. But again, I have a digital copy, it'll be fine. And now if you want, you could break this up into smaller bits, but I kind of like just one solid shape. And you can get glass, if this were a window, in this rough size. Do we want to do, you know, I kind of want to do some breaking up a little bit of the lines back here, because you don't find a lot of straight like rows of stained glass. So we'll give the arm sort of faux biceps, and again you want to connect them. And if it goes a little over, this won't matter because we're going to thicken the lines later. Oh, there's some curtains that aren't. You know, I'm just going to do this. For the curtains, I'm not going to do what I did here because I like the vertical look. And I have seen some glass where it looks like a waterfall. Same with the hair. That we're going to leave as is. I did add a little bit of movement here so that I can add like a shine. We also need to connect that. Now the floor was just boards, which is just a bunch of straight lines. And I'm thinking I want the straight lines to go this way. And I could use a ruler and make them super straight, but when you do stained glass, the black lines that are going to be thicker here are where the two pieces of glass were glued together. Well, not glued, but that's where they were fused. And when you fuse two pieces of glass together, the little lines aren't not super straight because it's a fluid that you're... So it doesn't really super matter how straight my lines are. And besides, my lines are fairly straight naturally, so it's not a huge deal. So we'll do some thick and some thin. And I know that now, because this is mimicking glass, sorry, window's open and it's raining, you don't want too many of these little seamy spots that I've already done out of necessity. So, seeing that this little bit here is going to be super skinny and weird, we'll make it a thicker line there, instead of trying to squeeze a line in here. Because you do still want it to look like glass, and I kind of like with stained glass where you connect the same line even though it's different things. And the beauty of this medium is that you can, when you go to do his hair, you don't have to worry about blending black and brown and a little bit of orange and a little bit of red. If you're doing this in marker or pencil, I don't know if you could do it in pencil, but somebody probably is talented enough, Prismacolors, but you can do one chunk in black, one chunk in brown, one chunk in red, if you wanted to. Okay, so the line continues here. Yeah, see what I mean? It's getting kind of old and worn. That's another reason I'm doing this in stained glass, is because I accidentally made him look old. I'm hoping once I add the shading that he won't look so old. So how do we stain glass the beard? Oh, I see another chunk that I didn't quite connect. So the beard down here won't be quite stained glass, but this is art. The artistic interpretation. I kind of want to do like a sort of leaf vein effect with the beard. Again, not leaving too many skinny spots. I don't know if it reads as leaves, but there's video proof now that that's what I was intending to do. Ooh! Oh, you know, I kind of should have done this. Just done like, well, I didn't think of that. Maybe I can still do kind of that. So like leaf veins, and then also this kind of Nordic swirly bit. Now it kind of looks like a braid, and I'm not super mad about that. Okay. Now looking at these bits, I kind of feel like these are too big and blocky. So the arm was here. We'll do that. I mean, I know this is like his shoulder and his neck region, but visually we're extending the arm up, which also separates it from the sides. Now we get to, let me check the time because I have a doctor's appointment. Okay, now we get to where it looks like stained glass. This is when you bust out your newer, better, I use microns for my line work because that's what tattoo artists use. Well, those and another kind. There's still some graphite on here that I need to clean up that I didn't see. But stained glass, well, stained glass is thick lines of goopy stuff. I don't know what you adhere pieces of glass to, but the great thing about stained glass is, if, like me, your hands shake, by the way, this is how thick you want them. I left that one open so you could see what I was doing. So you could draw 3 lines together, however thick your pen is. And again, I can touch this up in digital. Now, the smaller the piece, the thinner the goop is going to be, because they didn't need as much to glue it together. So I don't need to reinforce all of the line work. Like this skinny little bit here, I don't have to do that. But I really hope you can see what I'm doing. I'm sorry about the lighting issues. That's why I'm using verbal cues, like 3 lines wide. So that's a bigger piece. Imagine it was a window. That would be a bigger piece than all of these little bitty bits. Now, with that said, where the boards join with the little bitty bits, that would be thicker, because those are bigger pieces of glass. So the board pieces are connected together. And this is pretty much what you can do. Like, I made this one super thick because in my head, the stained glass people did this first, or this in a chunk, that in a chunk. Like, they did it in chunks and then fused the chunks together. You can do it differently. That's up to you. So in my head, the boards were in one chunk and the hair was in another chunk. So, sorry. So you would thicken the line down here, but not necessarily the ones up here. Like the thicker one, the big ones, yeah. These, those you can thicken. But like, the thinner ones, and you also don't want to have a point, because this is blobby gel stuff that's holding it together. That might not have been the... Probably should have gone up into the hair instead of down into the board. But oh well. Learn from my mistakes, because that's how it works. Speaking of no pointy bits, there are no pointy bits in nature. Nothing comes to a sharp point, not even dragon horns. So if you look at my dragons, and they look like they have pointy horns, look at the tip of the horn, and it is ever so slightly rounded. Teeth as well. So you see how it's starting to look more like stained glass? And all I'm doing is adding thicker lines in certain spots. Strategic spots. And I almost feel like the nostril would just be glue. I don't know why. Maybe because it's so small that they couldn't have gotten a colored bit of glass that tiny. So, artistic license, I did that. And I really, again, hope that you can see what I'm doing. But that's why I keep taking my hand away from the paper, so that you can see what I'm talking about. Now I do have brush pens. I'm not super great and proficient with them, so what I may do, by the way, remember that little stutter that I said doesn't matter? It's gone. So this is a great style for someone whose hands shake ever so slightly. But you see what I mean, it already looks like stained glass. And that is the cool thing about it. Oop, went a little thick with that one. Whoopsie. But, you know, the person putting the glass bits together could have also gone, whoops, my hand slipped. I put too much globby bit glue stuff in that one spot. And it's all about interpretation. So if they put the face together in one chunk and then glued it to the hair, then that would happen. And then we also get to round out the hair here, or the beard. And it adds depth because the beard is on one layer and then the hair wouldn't necessarily need as much glue or whatever it is. It's probably something closer to caulk. C-A-U-L-K for the dirty minds out there. So yeah, the hair is on one plane and the beard is on another plane. So you're creating depth the same way that a stained glass window maker would do. And it's all about strategically picturing in your head, okay, what is caulked to what? What is sealed to what? How was it put together? In what order was it put together? Or you can just thicken the lines that look artistically pleasing. It's up to you. Trying to think which ones would need more glue. That's a slightly bigger piece, so it might need more. These I don't think would. They're pretty small. So yeah, if you ever wondered why some lines in stained glass are thicker than others, it directly correlates, from what I understand, to the size of the piece that's being adhered. I didn't have my bright light on this when I erased my pencil work. So I'm gonna have to go over this with an eraser again later. Fortunately, when I scanned that, if I decide to do different lines with the digital, if I decide to do digital, oh, by the way, that's about to go bye-bye. So if I decide to go digital, I can do something where I adjust the color threshold and any remaining graphite will go bye-bye. And again, it's different thicknesses, yeah, but that just means that the adhesive didn't bubble as much in some spots. So this is one of those mediums where it's perfectly fine and actually beneficial if your lines are a little wobbly. Which, when you have shaky hands, is the best. Yes, I'm a paper turner. Hopefully you can still see this. I'm trying to keep it in the same zone. I don't know if this tutorial should be super long. Like, do you want to see the whole line work, or do you just need that little bit that I've given you? I don't know. So I think, because I have a doctor's appointment soon, that I'm going to leave it here. Because you guys are going to see the finished product on Twitter and Instagram and DeviantArt. But you get the idea. Like, in here, I didn't thicken it. I might come back and do that later. In here, I left it pretty thin. This all is probably going to be mostly left thin, except like that one there that might have needed more. So that's the gist of it. Like, okay, if the hair was done, I know I said I would stop. Give me a break. I keep seeing, well, fortunately I haven't done that part yet. I keep seeing things that I could talk about in this specific instance. Anyway, so the hair was done in one chunk and then added to the body and the face in another chunk. See, there goes my oopsie. For very linear people, I feel like stained glass art might be their forte. In fact, I may do more of these. But so, you know, when they put these together, I mean, like, I might do one line across instead of 3 width. Oh, well, that was not apparently dry. Guess I'm going digital to fix that. Microns generally do dry pretty quickly, but accidents do still happen. That's why I love digital. By the way, I know that this graphite is still here, but that's because this is where the divider between the windows is. So that's wood. That's gonna be darker than the yellow here. And also, when you go to do the curtains, you can use a slightly different shade of yellow as you go across. Particularly, so like this little bit in here would be a darker shade of yellow because the fabric is folding and creating a shadow. So you want to have alternating, like every now and then, like the skinny ones are where I'm going to put the darker yellows because that's where the fabric is folded in on itself. And because there's more fabric, it's blocking more light. So it's going to be darker naturally. But yeah, so this is essentially stained glass. All these little bits where I went over the line are going to be knocked out by the thick line coming down this way. So, and the thing is, you decide how this was put together. So if you want, when you do this, you could decide that this was glued to that. And then you can round out that little corner there. So, well, I mean, it was glued to the, well, I say glue, but you know I don't actually mean glue. It was adhered. That's going to be thicker because it's a giant piece. That I might break up into smaller pieces later, I don't know. But so you really have to think about how it was put together. So if this and this were put together first, the glue would, or the adhesive would be on this side. But if this and this were put together, then it would be, because that's how I'm picturing it went, the adhesive would be on that side. And again, I'm maybe overthinking this. You could just, you know, make it look pretty and, you know, not disregard the construction of an actual stained glass window. But I'm autistic, so I break things down into their smaller parts. So yeah, that is pretty much stained glass, and you can see how between the thicker and the thinner lines it does look like stained glass. I may do something with the forehead, but I don't really want to touch it, honestly. So I will see you on the social medias.